Hi, welcome to Ashley Ann's Hands. I'm very excited that you're interested in the Prism Lock Die Kit. And this is what it looks like. You can see that picture on the website. It will come with an ounce of your Teeswater locks, pretty much ready to go. And I will show you how to prepare them in the water bath for the rainbow dyeing. You will receive 3 colors of your choice, which is pretty cool because on the website under the descriptions where you click here, it'll show you the hearts, and these are the dye colors that I have in stock, and you can pick and choose from them, and all of that is pretty clear on the website. But they will come like this with the powder in there and the little pointed nozzle ready to go. You add your hot water in here, you press this down gently and firmly, and then you can either screw the top on and do your shaking, and you want to make sure that this has dissolved well. You can pretty much see it because it's fairly transparent, not completely opaque. So having explained how the kit comes, also along with some instructions from the Country Classic acid dye procedure, they will be in here for you, both immersion dyeing and rainbow dyeing, so that is included in the kit, as well as the locks and your 3 colors. I use a pH neutral soak, so I put a little bit of my olive, but there are a lot of nice ones on the market out there. You can use whatever you like. I also mix 2 parts of water with 1 part vinegar and do a spray, because as you know, the vinegar helps the dye to uptake into the protein of the fiber. So I add a little vinegar in there because, hey, a little bit's a good thing. And there we go. As you know, you got to make sure they're immersed really well. So here we go. They're in their little soap bath with a little bit of vinegar in there. And of course, you know, you want to make sure they're good and saturated. So you get them in there and squish them around. I like to use a potato masher just to make sure you get all the air out. Now I've left the elastic in because I think that they are much easier to handle when they're all connected. But at this point, now that they're wet and not going anywhere, you can undo the elastic and get rid of the residual water. So the locks are pretty dry. Now you can take a dry cloth and get all the residual out. But I put them in and get them laid out all nice. In fact, you don't have to use all of them at once because you can try different configurations. There will be enough color to use again, should you decide. But we're going to go for the whole ounce of the Teeswater locks that are soaked in our sudsy water with a little bit of vinegar. Try to get them in your little pie plate even. Now, I recommend using gloves, because if you're going anywhere, you're gonna have dye all over yourself, and it's probably not a good idea. And when these dyes are in their powder form is when they're dangerous to inhale. So when you're adding your water, take care to not get any of the powder residual on you. Also, I talked about a spray can. I like to do this. You can pretty much do it any way you want. Get a little extra vinegar on there. It kind of helps you to manipulate them without oversaturating. Get all your little locks going in the same direction. That'll help for your rainbow effect. We have our primary colors, and the fun part of this is that, as you know, red and blue make purple, and blue and yellow make green. So you can choose how you add these as to how you want them to separate and overlap and create the secondary colors. I'm going to start with red on the tips, and you can see that this really nice pointy tip makes it easy to not waste a lot of the dye. They kind of just absorb right in, and you can be pretty particular about where you want them. And it takes a little bit of working, but of course that's the fun. You get to play. and you get a good saturation. See how that just absorbs right in on the locks? Now if you feel like it's not going everywhere, what I do is I just add a little of this to help it blend, and then continue to work the fibers. These locks are taking it up beautifully.
Ew.
I like to use the vinegar spray as I talked about. And then this little guy gets them all saturated pretty good. Now I use the whole tube, but you don't have to, it's your gig. Also, you can change the angle to get a better saturation. In fact, when I microwave them, depending upon what colors I want to bleed into what, I put a paper towel under the plate to keep the dye in a specific direction. You have to make real sure that you clean off your utensil, because you don't want it bleeding in where you don't want it to bleed in. So we're going to go with our next color being blue. A little shake, make sure your top is screwed on really good. And I start straight down the middle because I want it to naturally bleed in and turn into that purple and green. So that's what's really cool about these tips. I'm pretty happy about the plastic bottles for your distribution for the rainbow dye with the Country Classic dye kit. It's fun. So I got a good saturation here, and I kind of let it find its own way into the red. And I've cleaned off my utensil, and we're going to just kind of press a little. Maybe add a little more of the vinegar, which you don't really need. The one-step acid dyes don't require a mordant, but it seems to me that it works pretty good for distribution. If you got to use a little extra water, you might as well let it have the vinegar in there, which makes the fiber more acid and allows the dyes to uptake into the molecules of the hair shaft. Okay, here we're going with yellow. Got a little shake on that before. I'm going to go on the ends to be sure that I get a good specific saturation. And I'll show you with the paper towel when you microwave them how to keep the blue out of the ends. But you're going to see this is going to do kind of a green. But what I like is how when you touch the curl, it stays very specifically where you want to put it. So if you wanted to do a crazy kind of a tie-dye with roving, you could use the same technique. These little bottles are pretty cute. You need a pretty good gripper to get the little tips out, but they can come out and be reused. And be careful. So I'm going to go just a little zigzaggy to make that green. I'm going to use all of it. Going to do a little spray. We make sure our utensil's clean. Spray, spray, spray. And I go on an angle. Just squish it all down. I'm going to use my finger just a little bit because I want to make sure those little ends are in there. And I'm consciously thinking about not touching anything else until I'm ready. And then maybe a little pinchy pinchy. Okay. If you should feel like there's any excessive bleeding and you feel like you want to mop up some of the dye, go ahead. But I did a pretty good job here of keeping it saturated but not really over dripping. I'm going to give just another little spray, and we're going to cover with saran wrap. I took my gloves off because it was getting a little crazy working with the saran wrap, but I like to make sure that you got a good seal. It seems to make a pretty big difference. So we got a good seal, and because the red is a pretty strong color, I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to fold it up just to make a little bit of a shift here so that it stays on an angle. And this microwave does have a power choice, doesn't it? This microwave has the ability to go half power. If you can do that, it's great. Seems to work better. I do 2 minutes and then let it pause, chill down for a second, and then I do another 2 minutes. If you have a microwave that only does a high power, pay attention and listen. If you hear a lot of popping, it's overcooking the fiber, and you're going to want to take it out, cool it down, and let it do its thing. This is going to cook now for 2 minutes. I'm going to rest it, cook it for another 2 minutes, and then I'm going to let it cool down on its own, probably take about 20 minutes. So this is the fun. You get to wait and see. Honestly, it worked fine on high. So I did my second 2 minutes on high, and it's a judgment call. You need to decide for yourself, but I'm going to go for the 5 minutes instead of 4. Make sure that you have something to remove your dish with. So they actually look pretty good. And we're going to leave this to sit and kind of be with that residual heat. And then we're going to rinse, and of course you know the routine. When the water runs white, you're good to go. Okay, so it's cooled down a lot, and I try to peel off the saran wrap so that the driplets that got on the top don't get into the fiber. This is pretty cool. Oh, and of course you should have put your gloves on. But that's alright. Everybody knows I'm the crazy dye lady. So it's alright for me to have purple fingers. And you can see that's coming out real nice. So I rinsed and rinsed until it ran clear, the water. And I think we got pretty good. I mean, they need to dry and fluff up a little bit. But there you go. Rainbow dyeing with Country Classic One-Step Acid Dyes and Ashley Ann's Hands. So go ahead and place your order at ashleyannshands.com, and when you place your order in the comment section, tell me exactly what color dyes you would want. This was Brilliant Blue and Ripe Tomato and Saffron, but some of the other more electric fluorescent colors come out pretty cool too. But this is a pretty much basic primary kit. Thank you very much.